obviously from an infrastructure owner and for the guy who owns the VCF platform, bringing private AI into the VCF platform by far tops. Because what it does is it essentially makes AI a core component of the VCF platform. And so when you start thinking about what does it take to consume and adopt VCF, by bringing it into the platform, all of a sudden now they've got the ability to be able to deploy AI services right out of the gate. They don't have to, it's not an additional purchase they need to make. It really brings it in as part of the core platform. I see opportunities in both, quite honestly. I mean, obviously the greenfield one is the obvious one, right? Where they have projects identified and they're really looking for a platform that they can use as a part to be able to do that. And, by embedding it in the platform, even if they have existing projects and they're looking for either expansion or alternatives to those other projects, now it gives them the ability to be able to do exactly that. They can essentially spin up a private AI instance, no additional cost, right? They're just putting the resources in there. But now as part of the platform, it gives you that additional flexibility. Take care. Obviously, they're not the primary target from a persona standpoint. We still focus on that VI admin and really trying to expand their role. What we want to do though is we want to be able to make sure that when the developers tap their shoulder and say, I need these services, we want them to be able to respond very positive to that, to be able to essentially say, look, it's built in. And everyone keeps saying that, oh, you put Kubernetes into the platform. We did that 5 years ago, right? I mean, if you look back to the VCF 4. Yeah, exactly. Right. Project Pacific, right? If you remember back then. But the challenge was is that all we had was the runtime. If you wanted all of the associated services that went with that to be able to stand it up, you had to bring Tanzu, right? And that was a deliberate part of the strategy there. But the feedback we were hearing from customers is that I want it as part of the platform. You should give me essentially a complete standalone runtime, all of the services, everything I need to be able to stand up a scalable Kubernetes infrastructure. Yes, because what's driving that is they want a little more control and governance over those systems as well, right? Because from a IT standpoint, right, they're essentially running against a set of mandates that are driving them to be able to maintain compliance, to be able to make sure that they're aligned with the security protocols, right? Why should I have a different set of rules for my container and Kubernetes infrastructure than I have for my traditional applications within it? So it gives you the ability to be able to essentially assign a base set of policies that can be applied ubiquitously across VMs, containers, or in many cases where I'm standing these clusters up that contain both. So it's really the ability to essentially, provide a common level of governance out across it. Well, it is early days, but again, especially if you think about, the VI admins, right? The core persona that we've been working with, selling to, and really who we're trying to elevate here at this conference, they grew up on it, right? DRS and vMotion and all of the things that vSphere does, it differentiates that capability. Right. And so again, it's the same thing. If I can deliver that for VMs, why shouldn't I have those same capabilities on my container infrastructure as well? Yeah. And view AI is the same way, right? That I should be able to determine based on, what's the optimal placement of a workload to be able to determine where to put it. Yeah. And I could put those rules in DRS and it gives me that capability. Sorry. And then likewise, if indeed I start to overflow a particular part of the network, I can essentially vMotion that GPU workload off to another VM or another area of the network that's not as. Well, if you think about it, what it really brings together is the ability to be able to strip off what's really not needed within those container infrastructures using the chisel containers, right? Now it gives you the ability to apply security policies to it because I'm essentially limiting the footprint. So now I have less exposure as part of that. And so it really, I think, provides a more ubiquitous way to be able to deploy those containers using that standardized Ubuntu footprint. No, what we mean is that private cloud it's not about a location. It's not about the location of data. It's an operating model. And I mean, this goes back to the VMware days.
So it includes hybrid cloud.
Yeah, we absolutely, right, absolutely. absolutely. And that's a very common use case, right? Where I have instances that I have deployed on-prem, but then I may also use either from a CSP, from a sovereign provider, from a hyperscaler. I may use public cloud services as part of it. But the key is that I have a consistent infrastructure layer and a consistent operating model. Right. So that as a developer, I shouldn't care whether it's deployed on-prem from a data center, at an edge location, or within a hyperscaler. Yeah. The interface that they get, the automation capabilities, the ability to be able to stand up net new instances, that is consistent regardless of where it's deployed. Yeah. So that private cloud is really more of an operating model rather than an actual location. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Most of it's deployed on-prem. I mean, we understand that. That's where our customer base has started, but we don't limit it to that. Yes, but you also have to think about the use cases where I may need to burst, right? If I need burst capacity, to do that on-prem is very difficult, right? If I've started to essentially utilize all of my on-prem hardware, it's very difficult to do so.
So really dynamic.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So think about the seasonal businesses, right? Retail, for example, that over the Christmas season, I may need to burst up to be able to support that additional capacity.
And you're really commoditizing the public cloud.
Right, exactly. And essentially using that bare metal, so to speak, running VCF on top of that bare metal, giving customers now the ability to be able to have that additional capacity. And at the end of the season, if they need to spin those down, they can spin those down.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that's kind of beneficial there, Torsten, is the ability to leverage our license portability capability. Because customer may have purchased, let's say, 100,000 cores, and they've deployed 70,000 cores on-prem. They have that additional 30,000 cores. As they start to spin up those instances, they can now use those same license entitlements, but use it in a cloud environment rather than using it on. And it's really about what customers can, care about and can consume and deploy. So yes, it is not our intent to build a complete set of APIs that support all of the capabilities that Google or Amazon or Azure support. What are the ones that are most important to our customers? And that's where we focus.
You have S3 now, right?
Yes. It's not available today, but it will be available soon.
Okay.
And we're bringing that in as a native object store within VCF.
And you have data services that mimic, not quite mimic, right? But are similar to RDS.
Similar, yes. So we have effectively our DSM product, Data Services Manager, does provide that database as a service kind of capability. Right. Yeah, we try to provide at least a functional equivalent so that the capabilities that you can get through a hyperscaler, through their services, you can get similar capabilities. May not be exact and may not have all of the capabilities in there, but enough to be able to address 80 to 90% of the use cases.
You left first.
Well, so, and one of the reasons we included it within our compliance package that we just talked about, announced yesterday, is the ability to look at things like configuration drift. Right, and the ability to provide remediation. Right, exactly. Well, now we're resurfacing that, but now resurfacing it under a compliance framework. Whereas if I'm essentially building net new infrastructure, stand it up day one, it's compliant. But then over time, as it does start to drift out of configuration, a lot of times I may not know about it unless I'm paying attention to the logs. What this does is this will essentially allow you to define rules that if indeed that happens, I can remediate that in real time. So it provides that automated remediation of that so that essentially, even though those systems start to drift out of configuration, I can use that remediation to be able to bring it back in. And to me, that's just this, we're just scratching the surface on that. I think there are so many other use cases that we can apply that technology to. So we're really glad that it's back now into VCF because now it gives us the ability to be able to leverage that as part of the platform.
User interface for that?
Well, right now the user interface is effectively they're using our operations framework as a way to be able to do that because that's where that configuration drift is first identified is within our operations.
So it's an API layer.
Right. So it's an API layer that'll essentially do calls to be able to essentially bring that SALT configuration drift capability back in. So putting the power back into the hands of the admins.